The autumn rain drummed against the windows of Murphy's Diner as 31-year-old Jake Sullivan sat across from his 6-year-old daughter, Lucy, carefully counting the crumpled bills from his wallet. $5.37. That was all that remained until his next paycheck arrived in 3 days. Jake's weathered hands showed the honest wear of construction work, and his flannel shirt carried the faint scent of sawdust from the job site, where he spent 10 hours a day building homes he couldn't afford to live in. Since Lucy's mother had left them 18 months ago, Jake had been navigating the impossible mathematics of single parenthood on a construction worker's wages. "Papa, I'm really hungry," Lucy said softly, her brown hair neatly braided. Despite their circumstances, she had learned not to ask for much. This little girl, who understood more about struggle than any 6-year-old should, Jake studied the worn menu, calculating carefully. A kid's meal cost $4.50, which would leave just enough for a cup of coffee to warm him through the long walk home in the rain. His own hunger would have to wait. "What looks good to you, sweetheart?" Jake asked, forcing cheerfulness into his voice. "Can I have the pancakes?" Lucy asked hopefully. "Just a small one." Jake's heart clenched. The pancakes cost $6, $1 more than he could afford. "How about the grilled cheese instead? That comes with those good pickles you like." Lucy's face showed a flicker of disappointment before she nodded with the resignation of a child accustomed to adjusting her dreams to fit reality. "Okay, Papa. Grilled cheese sounds perfect." At the table behind them, 28-year-old Amanda Harrison had been listening to this conversation while reviewing quarterly reports on her laptop. As the youngest CEO in her company's history, Amanda was used to solving problems with decisive action and substantial resources. But something about the quiet dignity of this father and daughter made her close her laptop and pay attention. Amanda had built Harrison Tech Solutions from a small startup into a $1 million company through careful observation and strategic thinking. Tonight, she was observing something that had nothing to do with profit margins and everything to do with love measured in careful calculations and sacrificed meals. When the waitress approached Jake's table, he ordered with the practiced efficiency of someone who had learned to navigate tight budgets. "1 grilled cheese kid's meal and a coffee, please." "And for yourself, hun?" the waitress asked kindly. "Just the coffee," Jake replied. "I'm not that hungry tonight." Lucy looked up at her father with concern that seemed far too mature for her age. "Papa, you should eat something. You worked all day." "I'm fine, Lucy. You eat your dinner and tell me about what you learned in school today." Amanda felt something shift in her chest as she watched this exchange. Here was a father choosing his daughter's hunger over his own, doing it with such grace that the child barely understood the sacrifice being made. Amanda approached their table with the careful respect of someone who understood that dignity mattered more than dollars. "Excuse me," she said gently to Jake. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I couldn't help but notice your daughter mentioning pancakes. I actually ordered way too much food, and I hate to see it go to waste. Would you mind if I asked the kitchen to send over some pancakes? I'd feel terrible throwing them away." Jake looked up at this young woman in her professional attire, immediately recognizing both her kindness and her careful phrasing that preserved his pride. "That's very thoughtful, miss, but we're fine with what we ordered." Lucy tugged on her father's sleeve. "Papa, remember what you always tell me about accepting kindness when it's offered with a good heart." Jake looked down at his daughter, then back at Amanda, seeing genuine care in her eyes rather than pity. "Are you sure you don't mind?" "I insist," Amanda said with a warm smile. "And honestly, pancakes are always better when shared with people who appreciate them." Amanda returned to her table and discreetly spoke with the waitress, not only ordering pancakes for Lucy, but also a full dinner for Jake. When the food arrived, Jake tried to protest, but Amanda had anticipated this. "My grandmother used to say that good food shared with good people was never wasted," Amanda said. "Besides, I have a business meeting here in an hour, and I'd rather the table stayed occupied by friendly faces." Over the next 45 minutes, Amanda found herself drawn into conversation with Jake and Lucy. She learned that Jake was working on a housing development across town, that Lucy was learning to read chapter books, and that they had moved to this neighborhood because the rent was affordable, and the elementary school had a good reputation. Lucy was delightful, chattering about her favorite books, and showing Amanda how she could write her name in both print and cursive. Jake was thoughtful and articulate, clearly intelligent and well-read despite his current circumstances. "What did you do before construction?" Amanda asked. "I was a project manager for a tech startup," Jake replied quietly. "But when the company folded and Lucy's mom left, I needed something steady that didn't require travel. Construction pays the bills and keeps me in town for Lucy." Amanda felt her business instincts sharpen. Project management for tech startups. That's exactly the kind of experience I've been looking for. She pulled out her business card. "Harrison Tech Solutions. We develop software for small businesses. And we're growing fast enough that I need someone who understands both technology and project coordination." Jake stared at the card. "Ms. Harrison, I appreciate the gesture, but I can't accept charity." "This isn't charity," Amanda said firmly. "This is business. I've been trying to fill this position for 3 months. Every candidate has been either overqualified and planning to leave quickly or underqualified and overwhelmed by the complexity." She looked at Lucy, who was carefully finishing every bite of her pancakes. "What I need is someone who understands responsibility. Who can manage complex projects while remembering that behind every deadline is a human being who matters." "You can tell all that from dinner conversation?" Jake asked skeptically. "I can tell that from watching how you handle difficult circumstances with grace, how you've raised a daughter who's polite and grateful despite obvious challenges, and how you put her needs consistently before your own comfort," Amanda replied. "Those aren't skills that show up on resumes." 3 weeks later, Jake stood in the modern offices of Harrison Tech Solutions wearing a new shirt and tie that Lucy had helped him pick out. The position paid twice what he made in construction, included health insurance that covered dental care for Lucy, and offered flexible hours that allowed him to attend school events and help with homework. Lucy sat in the company's small conference room after school, doing her homework while Jake finished his daily reports. The office had become a second home for both of them, with employees who had grown to love Lucy's visits and her father's steady competence. "Papa," Lucy said one afternoon as they walked home from the office, "do you remember that night at the diner when the nice lady shared her food with us?" "Of course I do, sweetheart. That was the night our lives changed. I think she was an angel," Lucy said seriously. "Not the kind with wings, but the kind that shows up when you need help and makes everything better." Jake smiled, remembering Amanda's explanation of that evening. She had told him later that she often worked late at Murphy's Diner because the atmosphere helped her think clearly about business problems. She had been struggling with hiring decisions when she overheard their conversation and realized that sometimes the best candidates aren't found through traditional recruiting. "Maybe she was," Jake agreed. "But I think you were pretty angelic that night, too, reminding Papa about accepting kindness with a good heart." Amanda had learned something equally valuable from that evening. Success wasn't just about building profitable companies, but about recognizing talent and potential wherever they appeared. Jake had become not just an employee, but a friend, someone whose perspective and integrity had improved every project he touched. The $5 that had seemed so insufficient that rainy night had been transformed into something far more valuable, an opportunity for two people to discover that their separate struggles could become shared strengths. Murphy's Diner became their monthly tradition, a reminder of the evening when hunger had led to abundance, when careful counting of dollars had revealed the immeasurable worth of human connection, and when a simple act of kindness had created opportunities that neither of them could have imagined. Sometimes the most important business meetings happen not in conference rooms but in corner booths where the currency isn't money but compassion, and where the most valuable investments are made not in stocks or bonds but in the simple decision to see potential in people who just need someone to believe in them. If this story reminded you that opportunities often come disguised as moments when we choose to help others, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need this message about the power of recognizing potential in unexpected places. Subscribe for more stories about how acts of kindness create ripple effects that change multiple lives. And please comment below about a time when someone saw potential in you when you were struggling, or when helping someone led to unexpected opportunities in your own life. Your story might inspire someone else to reach out with generosity.